So you just did a series at our church on Proverbs.
Right.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what the series covered, how many sermon series perhaps you did, maybe highlight a few of them, and talk about some of the challenges and benefits to preaching through Proverbs.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I love Proverbs. I've loved it personally, through my adult life, a great source for personal growth, but it also has been a good way to teach my sons. So a lot of times I would create little Bible studies for them that we'd do, and they'd have to walk through. So, I mean, it's just a very practical book that teaches people how to live inside of God's creation. So it, I regularly cycle back through it for myself, even just to think about what's being taught there, to try to live wisely. It was last, I guess, just about a year ago.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm just going to I started doing Sunday nights a series of messages, really, like you're referring to, almost a bunch of sub-series.
Right.
So, obviously, I started with how you find wisdom in Proverbs, but then I started to go to character studies, and I worked through that, and some of the speech, tongue issues. Then we hit a break, and I actually, while I was on vacation, was doing some advanced work on it, and I thought, I really think this might be better to bring down into our morning services and tackle that. So from probably mid-April to September,
Okay.
I tackled then the Proverbs stuff. But some of it individual sermons, some of it smaller series, like a series on parenting. I did, I think, three messages on marriage from Proverbs, couple messages, I think, on money. So there were just little subsets inside of there as well. That was, to be honest with you, some of it was coming out of some counseling stuff that I was having to do, and it seemed to me like there were some things that I was seeing that it would be good to address with everybody in the congregation, and Proverbs lends itself to being, an expositionally driven topical sermons. So that's really what pushed it for me.
So talk to me about some of the challenges then of a guy who maybe feels comfortable in the Pauline epistles. Here you are preaching topical expositional sermons from Proverbs.
Well, Proverbs, I think, is, the reason why I guess I feel comfortable there is because, you can do it one of two ways. You can preach a full topical sermon, which would be try to touch all that Proverbs says on a subject. Or you can actually just zero in on a text and the truth that's there, and therefore you're it's not like a fully topical message, because you're actually just expositing that text.
Right.
But the nature of it is because they're usually short, they cover a simple truth, then the sermons lend themselves to much more application. And so to me, I actually love, even when I do New Testament stuff, which, I tend to, I don't take large sections of New Testament stuff. So I tend to take 2 or 3 verses, whatever's the, sometimes whatever's the smallest unit that I can, and then, sort of bear down. And that's all you're doing in Proverbs. So you take, like the first one on marriage, was, whoever finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Well, I didn't preach, the message wasn't, so what does Proverbs say about marriage, and go through the whole book. It was, what does this piece of wisdom say about marriage? And that makes it much easier in my mind to handle. And when I say handle as a preacher, because you're not having to have people bounce all over the book. And I think it's sometimes easier for the listener to handle, because they're not getting sometimes, and I've done this in Proverbs, but sometimes what they're getting is really just a pile up of verses. You're taking, really your sermon's going to be, say, like 20 verses, and you've now organized them into some kind of an outline, and it's all here for you,
right?
Because you spent all your time doing it. But the listener, is sometimes, struggling to keep up with the fact, because you're just going from verse to verse to verse. Unless you've given them an outline with that stuff written out in front of them, sometimes it can be hard to preach that, as well as if you just narrowed into a single idea in the text and then possibly supplement it from other things that are said. That is, Solomon says something like this as well over in this verse, and, go in the neighborhood of Proverbs and supplement it, but not really try to preach, 5 expository messages from a bunch of different texts all in one sermon.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Now, if one of our listeners or actually viewers, wants to listen to these, where would they find them? Are they available?
Yes, they would be at sermonaudio.com, actually under, they could type in David Doran.
Okay.
Or they could go to Detroit Baptist Theological Seminary, because that's actually what we have them out there.
Okay. And on Sermon Audio, they'd type in Detroit Baptist.
Yeah, if they did the search, so they could either do my name or the seminary.
Okay.
And then inside of that, there's actually ways you can search through the sermons. So if you do scripture search by Proverbs, all the sermons on Proverbs would come up. So you can actually do that. But if they want to do it date-wise, they could actually go back, anytime from April to September would be in the middle of those. The ones on marriage were actually in September.
Yes,
I think
particularly
the ones
helpful.
on parenting that you'd mentioned something about.
Yes.
That I think was in the summertime.
Okay. And these are also available in videos somewhere too. Do you know the location of that?
We have a Vimeo account that I think you can actually get through the church website.
Okay. So inner
the
city.
guy behind the camera would know that.
Yeah,
church website. You can do that.
Okay.
And I think we started videoing pretty close to the start of the Proverbs series, actually.
Okay.
So they all may be up there. But
so viewers can.
I have a face that's made for audio though, so it might be better just to listen to them.
Good. Okay.
But they are on the Vimeo, and those would be up as well.